Okay, so yesterday we started learning this talk that Rebbe gave to the residents of Chabad, and the basic theme that we learned until now was how the brachas are coming down from Hashem through the Rebbe to all the residents of Chabad, and yet they haven't accomplished anything close to what they need to accomplish. And the only reason that this didn't happen was because, as the Tzemach Tzedek says, Ava bracha, where there is love, there is blessing. And where there is no Avos Yisrael, then there's a lack of blessing.
Was there something going on at the time?
So it seems like from listening to the Rebbe's words, I don't know, I'm not familiar with anything Kfar Chabad. It seems like from the Rebbe's words that there was an election, and there were various factions in Kfar Chabad who didn't agree with the election. And the Rebbe was saying that if the rabbi of Kfar Chabad, who's considered the Torah says that the rabbi is called the master of the place. If the Shulchan Aruch says you have to listen to the rabbi, so if he affirmed the election, so then that's what Torah says. So and the Rebbe said that the Tzemach Tzedek said that love is blessing, and the Rebbe said I don't want to say the opposite, which the opposite is Tzemach Tzedek said the guy v'das, where there's arrogance, there's poverty. So the reason I don't want to say this is because it's not for sure not necessary. And in great detail, Rebbe speaks about how there's many people who have different claims and different rationale and why they disagree. And Rebbe said instead of relying on your own rationale, rely on the rationale, rely on the cheshbenos, rely on the calculations of the leader of the generation of the previous Rebbe, who basically said that the very foundation of this village has to be built on Avos Yisrael, and you shouldn't. And it went into very great detail. Don't oppose them. Don't cause damage to these various organizations that were arranged according to the majority vote of Kfar Chabad. Not only should not oppose them, you shouldn't in an open way. You shouldn't oppose them in a hidden way. You shouldn't ask someone else to oppose them who doesn't know what you're asking them. So this kind of detailed instructions that Rebbe is giving the people who are obviously very upset about what's going on underscores the angst and frustration you hear in the Rebbe's voice about what's going on. And I don't know that's not the right word to use regarding the Rebbe, angst and frustration. But you hear there's a great pain that the Rebbe has of what's going on. And Rebbe is asking them, please, whatever has happened already. But now let's move on. Let's be peace. Let's not continue. So whatever committee has been elected by the majority vote is no longer representing just the majority vote, but now it's also representing the minority that voted against them. To the extent that there's no separation between the majority vote and the minority vote, and they all together become one great community with joy and gladness of heart, and together adding in loving God, which is the source of all positive mitzvahs. As Alter writes in Tanya, the source of all mitzvahs is love of Hashem. The source of all positive mitzvahs is love of Hashem. It says in Tanya, because you love Hashem, you want to cleave to Hashem. So the source of all positive mitzvahs is love of Hashem. And it's also the source for reverence for Hashem, because one of the mitzvahs is to have fear for Hashem. So if the source of all mitzvahs is love for Hashem, and one of the mitzvahs is to fear Hashem, and fear of Hashem is the source of all negative commandments, so it comes out that loving Hashem is the source of everything. Because if you love Hashem, you want to do the mitzvah of fearing Hashem, and if you fear Hashem, you also do all negative mitzvahs. You also fulfill all of the commandments of Hashem that He said not to do. So it comes out that love is the source of everything. And the Alter Rebbe said, as we said before, and the leader of our generation repeated this, that loving Hashem is one thing with loving your fellow Jew like yourself. So even if before you had claims, we're now coming from Rosh Hashanah, and we are now coming from Yom Kippur, when then God forgave and pardoned and atoned in an open, clear way And God said that this will surely bring that this will bring an absolute atonement for all sins between one Jew and another. How much more does this apply to those who are walking the footsteps of my father-in-law, the previous Rebbe? So from now on, whatever has happened, has happened. There were no really, there was no real, so now I think what I was saying is that considering whatever mistakes have been made, there was now like sort of, if I understand this correctly, he's sort of addressing now Hashem and saying, or addressing the presence of Chabad in front of Hashem and saying to them, whatever has happened wasn't really a weighty thing. It wasn't such a great thing that God can't forgive. And the little mistake that did happen, there was a mistake. The little mistake that did happen, it was because of a mistake, or it was because of frustration and angst. And the Gemara says that a person cannot be held responsible for something that he does when he is in under duress. But it's a certain thing that from now on, it's certain that the women will be a living example, as it were an example when the tabernacle was built. That they brought gifts to build the tabernacle with a magnanimous heart, in order that the tabernacle should be built as soon as possible and in the best possible way, as God wanted. So too, regarding the miniature Beis Hamikdash, which is in every Jewish home, how much more so? We're talking about many Jewish homes, in a city or in a village. How much more so in a village, which is a Hasidic village. Certain that from now on, they will add the women and daughters at their head in loving your fellow Jew like yourself in a way that will bring to actual acting that way, actual behavior in daily life. This will add in God's blessings in general, and God's blessings that are transmitted through the leader of our generation to the residents of Kfar Chabad in a way that's in ever increasing measure, that they should be able to fulfill their role in a comfortable way, to continuous growth, to spread the well springs in the entire land of Israel, the land where God's eyes are upon the land from the beginning of the year to the end of the year. To do this with comfort, with children, with health and parnasa, and all those areas should be comfortable and broad and blessed and abundant. As it says in this week's Torah portion, that the Torah portion of Noach, Rashi explains that that Noach had offspring, and Rashi explains the offspring of the righteous are their good deeds. And the good deeds of Noach caused there to be tranquility in the higher worlds and lower worlds. So there should be true tranquility, which is connected with true peace, with each resident, all residents, and all the residents among themselves. Each of them and all of them together, they should become an example of true peace for all the Jewish men and women wherever they are. They should also be an example of fulfillment of what the Talmud says, that there is no greater vessel for blessing than peace. They should be an example of that people should see, in other words, that their peace has brought such great blessing. Bracha for all good things, all that's needed from God's open and broad, holy hand. And soon, literally soon, each of them should be able to say in his heart, deep in his heart. Each resident should be able to say soon in his heart that he fulfilled and he continues to fulfill and adds the will of the leader of our generation, which is his will is that they should pursue love, love and truth, and the love that they have for each other. Love Yisrael should be a love, a love which has no rationale, no love which is beyond logic. And not just a love without any reason, but much more so when there is a reason. And you love another Jew who you lived so many years together with, and both belong to the same faithful shepherd, the Rebbe, my father-in-law, which is called a. So it's not a. So they both belong to the same shepherd, the leader of our generation. So it's not called a love for no reason. This is a justified love. With 100%, it's justified. In every area, even if there's a doubt about how you should act in that area, you should act you should right away move away from the doubt, even if there's a doubt, and decide that even in the place of doubt to go towards loving your fellow like yourself. So all those you're able to influence.
Love potion.
What?
Kind of love potion.
That's what we're doing right now.
Thank you. Yeah. Thank you.
To love your fellow like yourself. So all those you're able to influence, they should do the same. Starting off by acting according to the code of Jewish law, which includes obeying the rabbis and the committees that they have the committees that they have put in place, they will put in that they had or they have and or they will put in place. To those committees, regarding these committees, they should support them. And don't look for any explanations or any hints, etc. I mean the benefit of every resident of Chabad, physically and spiritually. It only depends on your desire. And there's a true desire, which a desire only depends on the desire. And when there is a desire, a true desire, a desire connected with true pleasure, to have true nachas, ksisha nachas, from children and grandchildren, and to receive the nachas with health and with parnasa and with a good mood, and to prepare to greet Mashiach Tzidkeinu with joy and gladness of heart. Mashiach is waiting, that we should finish the preparations for his coming. First of all, there should be a true love from one person to another, and between a husband and his wife. As we said earlier, this is a general principle in Torah. that it could be, there should be avas china, meaning if you need, as we said before, that Rebbe is saying that this is a 100% justified love. But if you need to call this a love which is unjustified, let's call it an unjustified love. That's, in other words, that's where you're up to. You're not able to justify the love, so then do it that way. And that will immediately reveal how God says, I love you. In other words, by you revealing your love for another Jew, and that will reveal how Hashem says to us, I love you. And this will immediately reveal. So our love for each other will reveal the love of Hashem to us. The previous Rebbe said, named the Alter Rebbe, that Hashem has a unique pleasure when He sees that we get along with a true unity and love for each other. We don't allow ourselves to be convinced by the old and foolish king. But any situation may be, whatever rationally he says. In other words, every Yitzhar tries to convince us to do, we shouldn't listen to him as much more, so he tries to dissuade us from fulfilling the major principle of Torah, loving your fellow like yourself. This is expressed, as mentioned before, that the offspring of the righteous are their good deeds, and they should be. And I said earlier that the continuing the good deeds in the way of this parsha that I was speaking, the parsha of Noach, where Noach means tranquility. This should cause tranquility in the higher world and the lower worlds. To have tranquility yourself, and tranquility in the whole village, and tranquility in the whole land of Israel. Tranquility connected with pleasure and true joy, with good health and good parnasa. This will also bring cause a huge expansion. There was many adjectives to describe the expansion, both in Kfar Chabad and Nach Chabad. This will cause a huge expansion of higher and higher in quantity and quality. So there should be a year of light, a year of blessing, a year of greatness, a year of redemption, speedily in our days, literally. Through Mashiach Tzedekenu. May this happen immediately. Probably each of you has already received $1. Did tzedakah protect each of you? Because tzedakah brings redemption, to redeem from all negative things, redeem from all negative thoughts, and to know it's not something you're doing. In other words, when I was saying that if in other words, they would give a very strong instruction over here. And he's saying when you do this, we do what I'm asking you to do. It's not you're doing it. You're doing a favor for someone else. The first, when you act the way that I was asking, which is with Avos Yisrael, you're not doing a favor for someone else. Rather, doing a favor for yourself. You're also doing a favor for all the entire village. And Nach Chabad. You're also doing a favor for all the Jewish people. You're doing a favor for Mashiach, which he was waiting, that we should end. We should finish the job of loving our fellow Jew like ourselves, together with loving Hashem, and immediately be redeemed. Immediately Mashiach comes, and we go to Yerushalayim, and come to the holy mountain, and in the holy mountain into the base of Mikdash built by God's hands. We danced together with a Hasidic dance on the Har Habayis, on the holy mountain, and walking to the holy mountains. And so too in the last days of the exile, both Jews outside of Israel and Jews in Israel, that we conclude the month of Tishrei, taking the joy of Simchas Torah and Simchas Torah itself, and the joy of the entire holiday of Sukkot, that we end the last days of the month of Tishrei with great joy and true pleasure, and with good decisions. And we dance immediately into the month of Cheshvan. We dance the month of Cheshvan, which was blessed in Shabbos Bereishis. So all the blessings come down ready in an open and clear way. And we, as I said earlier, a year of light, a year of blessing, a year of greatness, and a year of tshuva, tefillah, and Torah, together with all the brachas, for all the brachas from God's full and open and holy hand, and all that's needed, physically and spiritually, together. Whoever did not yet receive a dollar should come over now. Be a good idea. There should be a Farbrengen, and people should make good decisions by the Farbrengen, and all that we mentioned before. My participation will be, I'll be somewhere else physically, but my spirit will be here. There was asking they should make it Farbrengen immediately that night to fulfill what they were asked them to do. Just tell you one moment from that Farbrengen. There's a video of the Farbrengen. When I used to one day to learn that Farbrengen as well. I can't really learn that Farbrengen, but it's amazing. Mendel Futterfast, despite the fact you think such sharp words would be like a Farbrengen, very very intense Farbrengen, very like Mendel Farbrengen, but he Farbrengen in a very very casual way, very joyful and looser way, if you will. And two things he said at the Farbrengen that I remember was that there was an Israeli prime minister who, I think Navon, I don't know who it was. Anyways, someone who said that everyone has to have two teachers. One that tells you about your virtues, and one tells you about your faults. And he's basically saying that there was a little. I don't remember where the class was. It was in the city of Lubavitch or somewhere else. There was a class, and one of the teachers had this idea. There's a class, a very rough class, and the teacher said that everyone in the class has to write down the virtues of all other kids in the class. So everyone had to do this. I don't remember the time frame he gave them. Everyone had to write down all of the good things they saw in the other kids in the class. And after a while, what happened was that everyone wanted to act really good because they wanted the other kids to say good things about them. And so that class became the best class so everyone was looking for the virtues of the other kids because they had to write down the virtues of the other kids. And all the kids were trying to show them how great they were because of the, but Handel also spoke about, as I mentioned, he said that one guy he knew who had a problem with the tshuva. What was his tshuva? Instead of punching below the belt, he would punch above the belt. Like Handel, he was basically trying to say, if I understood Mendel correctly, he was like, guys, wake up, let's listen to what they were telling us. This is the path of Ahavas Yisrael, the path of all the brachas. Let go of all the foolish stuff that divides us, and think about the virtues of other people. Talk about them. L'chaim. We'll stop here. Good Shabbos, Zeb. Good Shabbos, David.